And we're also very pleased to have HTC alumna Dr. Blaetz with us. She is a 1978 graduate of Ohio University, where she majored in English at the Honors Tutorial College. Her scholarly work centers on women in film and focuses on both the work of little-known women avant-garde filmmakers, as well as on the representation of women in historical film. Dr. Blaetz is the author of an anthology entitled Women's Experimental Cinema, Critical Frameworks. She also wrote Visions of the Maid, Joan of Arc, and American Film and Culture. The title of her talk this evening is Examining Women's Experimental Cinema. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Blaetz.
So let me begin by situating myself in regard to the Honors Tutorial College. I found the Honors Tutorial College, which I studied English in. I'll never forget handing in my first essay on The Miller's Tale, I think it was, and getting it back, and it was completely red. And so I handed in a second one, maybe a little less red. The third one, a little less. By the time I had been here 1 month, he had turned me into a writer. Right? It was so rigorous. It was just remarkable, and I've always been thankful for that. So let me talk a little bit about what I did on my way to becoming a film professor. I graduated in 1978. I moved to Paris to become an au pair, and it was in Paris where I first found movies shown at 10 a.m. And the first film was Masculine and Feminine, the Godard film. And it all came together. I thought, this is it. You know, it didn't click until I got to Paris that film is the language of our time. I applied to NYU. It was a very new program in cinema studies. I had a remarkable time there. What my real work is this latest anthology, which is Women's Experimental Cinema, Critical Frameworks. And I thought I'd talk a little bit about the genesis of the book. I have been writing about these films for a long time, and I remember one time being at a Society for Cinema and Media Studies conference, and I was giving a paper on Leslie Thornton's film called There Was an Unseen Cloud Moving, and there were 3 people in the audience. But one of them was the filmmaker Jill Godmellow. She said, you know, what's going on here? I mean, this was at the height of feminist film theory. She said, all these women, all the theorists, are down the hall listening to papers about Stella Dallas and Mildred Pierce for the 15th time. What is it? What's the problem? Why keep going down and studying these same texts about how women's images have been framed? Why not look and see the way contemporary women are making film? So this kind of nagged at me. I studied avant-garde film at NYU. So we'd get visionary film, and then we'd get some little tattered Xerox copies of the women's films, right? Maybe a page and a half about, Chick Strand or Storm de Hirsch. So it was so pathetic. It was so obvious. All of this sort of removal of women's filmmaking, no matter how important they had been, became the genesis of the book. And so when the book, I called all the people I thought who were the best scholars in the field and asked them if they would do this, and everybody jumped on it. Right? Really happy to write about these really ignored women. And as soon as the book came out, in 1 month it went into a second printing, which shows that it was used as a textbook, which is really all I wanted to do, is to bring that back. And now the filmmakers working today, they are all written about as much as anybody. So in my mind, we've jumped over the gap. Right? Every filmmaker is taken for their work. We don't really need to think about fixing history anymore, which is a great relief.